We're on page 35 in the notes for the unit on derivatives. The first lesson is on domain and composition. So for any function, there are three restrictions that you should be familiar with. The denominators cannot equal 0. The radicals cannot be less than 0. So you can't take the square root of a negative number. And logs must be greater than 0. To find the domain of a function, you need to look at the restrictions in the radical. So if we take a look at what's underneath the radical, 4 minus x, this needs to be greater than or equal to 0. And if we make 4 minus x greater than or equal to 0, our solution has to be that x is less than or equal to 4. To find the domain of this function, again, we need to take a look at the square root, and what's inside the radical needs to be positive. So x squared minus 3 has to be greater than or equal to 0. We continue to solve. X squared greater than or equal to 3. And then we take the square root of both sides. So the square root of 3 can be positive and it can be negative. So x is greater than or equal to plus or minus square root 3. Example 3 asks us, what's the domain of the function? And again, we see that we have some restrictions here. In the denominator, x cannot equal 3 because then it would be 0 in the denominator. And if we take a look at the numerator with any radical, it needs to be greater than or equal to 0. So if x squared minus 4 has to be greater than or equal to 0, x has to be greater than or equal to plus or minus 2. And in the denominator, x cannot equal 3. Composition of functions. Composition is when you substitute a variable for an entire radical. Given that f of x equals x minus 6 and g of x equals 2x minus 7, we want to find f of g of x, or g of f of x. And you did this actually in grade 10 math. So we're going to substitute the f function inside the g function. So f of g of x, we place the f function of x minus 6 into the g function. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 6 is minus 12, minus 7. Our solution is 2x minus 19. Find f of x. So our f function is x squared plus 6. In this case, we don't use the g function. It's there, but that's not what the question is asking us. So we're going to substitute x squared plus 6 back into that same expression. So x squared plus 6 goes inside the f function of x, and it's all squared. Now, since it's all squared, you must do FOIL on it. So first, outside, inside, last becomes x to the 4th plus 6x squared plus 6x squared equaling 12x squared. And 6 times 6 equals 36. And the plus 6 is tacked on to the end. Our final solution is x to the power of 4 plus 12x squared plus 42.